morning, everybody, and welcome to Carving It Up Live right here on YouTube, IG, and on Twitter. As always, I'm Bryson Carver. What a night last night in the NBA Finals. Tyrese freaking Haliburton with the walk-off shot. Wasn't technically a walk-off because it wasn't at the buzzer. 0.3 of a second left. I call that a walk-off shot. Touch on that in just a few minutes. NBA Finals, everybody was hating on it, saying, oh, it's two small market teams. Listen, stay over there. You stay over there. Those that said this one going to be a good finals and, oh, OKC's going to blow the doors off the Pacers. I picked the Thunder, but I said Indiana's going to get two games. Hey, they may get three or more. And so very, very, very excited to see how this finals continues to play itself out. So we got a lot to talk about. Obviously going to touch on the finals, touch on Indiana's win, touch on Oklahoma City's loss, what they did down the stretch that I didn't love, particularly from their head coach, Mark Dagnall. SGA kind of in analyzing his performance. Also after the break, more on this Aaron Rodgers to my Pittsburgh Steelers. More on that signing. It gets worse by the day. And it's barely been 24 hours. Why there's way more pressure, immensely more pressure on Mike Tomlin than there is on Aaron Rodgers. Touch on that. Touch on why I think Stephen A. Smith blew this all-star game situation out of proportion. Why I appreciated Kevin Durant for kind of calling him out on it. More on that later. On today's show. Also at the end of today's show, Game 2 predictions, NBA Finals. Can't wait to touch on that. That will be at the end of today's show. OKC down 1-0 to the Indiana Pacers. But first, NBA Finals Game 1. You couldn't have asked for a much more entertaining finish. So the Pacers down 15 in the fourth quarter, come back and win this basketball game on a Tyrese Haliburton game-winning jumper. And for those that didn't get the opportunity to see it, here you go.
The Pacers with a chance to win it. Final seconds, no fouls to give. Haliburton looking. Haliburton driving, pulls up, jump shot. It's good! It's good! With 0.3 of a second remaining. Timeout, OKC. Tyrese Haliburton does it again. Their first lead of the game.
Pretty remarkable stuff. So, again, firstly, the game, as you heard the great Mike Breen say, I will say, Mike Breen could have given that a bang call. I know he said the only bang call he's given on a two-point shot was Kobe Bryant, maybe one of the most infamous Kobe playoff moments ever with the game-winning jumper, the buzzer beater against Phoenix. I understand all that. That deserved a bang call. Nonetheless, it was remarkable from Indiana's perspective, and Tyrese Haliburton is on, indisputably, the most clutch playoff run, the most individual clutch playoff run we've ever seen in the history of the league. And we could show you the numbers to back it up. So they started tracking these, or this particular stat, these next couple stats I'm going to show you, since 1997. Tyrese Haliburton, let's go and put up this first graphic, okay, just to contextualize what he's doing. So most go-ahead or game-tying shots made with under 10 seconds left in the playoffs since 1997 when they started tracking this. See if you've seen these names. LeBron with 10. I thought LeBron was at clutch. Anyways, Haliburton with 6. How about Chris Middleton making an appearance in the list at 6? So does Tim Duncan, greatest power forward ever. Kobe Bryant, who's on my Mount Rushmore all time. Ray Allen, one of the greatest shooters, one of the greatest clutch shooters ever, has 5. Reggie Miller, probably the greatest clutch shooter of all time, with 5. Let's narrow it down, though. Most go-ahead or game-tying shots made with under 3 seconds in the playoffs. So this is, man, you got to make a decision on the fly. We got to get a big shot right now from you. LeBron with 8. Thought he wasn't clutch. Reggie Miller, right now the greatest pacer ever with 5. Haliburton also is 5. I'm just telling you right now, with respect to Reggie Miller, one of the greatest clutch shot takers and makers we've ever seen. Haliburton is the greatest pacer ever if he wins this title. Like, with respect to Reggie, I forgot. I think he made like 3 All-Star games, 4 All-Star games, something like that. And it has an 18-3 average for his career. Like, Reggie was a great player when you needed him the most. Not necessarily like the apex guys of the 90s that we know to be with Jordan and Barkley and Stockton Malone and those guys. Clyde Drexler, Hakeem. Who could forget Hakeem? Point of this all is that this is, I'm hearing it described as the most clutch playoff performance we've seen in an individual postseason from a player. And that is true. I'm going to call it the gutsiest individual postseason playoff run because you have to factor in the clutch gene as well and the fact that Tyrese has done this in all 4 rounds. Game 5, by the way, down a point to the Milwaukee Bucks with the layup against Giannis, by the way. Giannis is defending him, maybe the greatest defender of this generation of the last decade or so, outside of Draymond Green, Anthony Davis. On the ball, Haliburton takes him off the dribble, lays it up to win the basketball game and win the series. Round 2, I believe they're down 2 to Cleveland, right? They're in a spot where it's 1 or 2, I forgot what it was. hit the go-ahead game-winning buzzer-beating 3 to beat the Cavs in that game 2 to take a 2-0 lead over the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. Beat up, I understand, but they came back from a 7-point deficit in the last 30-plus seconds to do it. Game 1 Eastern Conference Finals. This is probably, before last night, the most iconic one where it's down 2. He's got the mid-range to try and shoot to tie the game against the New York Knicks, but Mitchell Robinson, Knicks center, forces him back outside like he did in the Cleveland game. Haliburton takes a shot, takes a Kawhi Leonard bounce, falls in. He does the premature Reggie Miller choke sign and backs an open overtime. The Pacers win that one, and obviously the game-winning shot last night to win the game. Again, we'll touch on the Oklahoma City aspect of this. I know there's a lot of blame to go around for the Thunder and how they lost this basketball game, up by 15 with under 10 minutes to go. But the fact remains, this is a guy that was called the most overrated player in the NBA by his peers, according to an athletic poll not long before the postseason. And some guys, someone who is as accomplished as Tyrese is this early in his career, he's a 2-time All-NBA guy, 2-time All-Star. He's been traded. He rode the bench during Team USA's run, and we ripped on Tatum, but that's because of what Tatum was doing on the court. Haliburton couldn't even get on the court during Team USA's Olympic run a year ago. All of those components could make a guy who maybe isn't as mentally tough not necessarily pout about it, but hold a grudge, be resentful, maybe make some passive-aggressive remarks on social media, let it get into his head. No. This is year 5 for this kid. He's still young. He's still getting better. He says, no. I'm not going to change my game. I'm just going to show y'all, hey, I know y'all kind of snicker at my 18.9 assist averages for the season. Okay. Because that's essentially what Haliburton did last night. Again, not exactly his averages, but he only scored 14 points in the game last night. It's not like he had a big-time crazy like he had in Game 4 against the Knicks where he had a 35-point triple-double with 0 turnovers. That's not Tyrese. It's, what do you need from me? I'm going to get my other guys involved. Siakam once again led the Pacers in scoring, right? Siakam had those big, I've called him every other game Pascal. We could see a big Siakam performance in Game 2. Watch out for that. But Tyrese is going to give you what you need, and particularly in the clutch. Folks, the man is shooting darn near 90% this season with opportunities to tie or take the lead. So, and listen, Jalen Brunson was a rightful Clutch Player of the Year award winner. This guy is Mr. Clutch. He is the modern-day Jerry West in that aspect. They named the Clutch Player of the Year award after the late, great Jerry West. Listen, they need to say the West/Haliburton Clutch Player of the Year award, because what this guy is doing, we gave Damian Lillard, and rightfully so, tons of credit. Dame time, baby. Some of those buzzer beaters, those series-ending shots he hit against the Rockets and against the Thunder, those came in the first round. This guy's doing it round after round after round. Close out the Bucks with a layup. It basically took a stranglehold on the series against Cleveland, the number 1 seed in round 2. Set the stage, or really, set the standard for what the series is going to be in Game 1 at Madison Square Garden against the Knicks. And then last night, heavily favored Thunder, not phased. This Pacer team, not phased. This has been their bread and butter all playoffs long. 15-point deficits, 20, but it doesn't matter. Nesmith can get hot. Obi Toppin gave you 5 threes last night. Obi Toppin was great. Basically, Obi Toppin essentially canceled out what Lou Dort did in the other end for the Knicks. I'm sorry, for the Oklahoma City Thunder. Hit the 5 3-pointers, right? Siakam gives you 19. Like, it's remarkable that the Pacers win a basketball game at the 1 seed, down 15, and no one scores 20 on their team. But you had 6 guys in double figures, and TJ McConnell, I think it was McConnell, who gave you 9 points. So we can essentially call that 7. Round up 7 guys scored in double figures, essentially, for this Pacers team. That's what makes them so dangerous, and that's why this notion about, this can be quick work, Oklahoma City's going to get rid of them. We've seen finals like this before. I've compared it to 2011, and no, not just because Rick Carlisle is the head coach of the Pacers and coached the Mavericks, obviously, back that season. But there are moments sometimes, folks, in these finals where you'll have a heavily favored team, and the underdog will take one of the first 2 games, and we look at it, it's like, weird loss, fluky loss, they'll be fine. Remember when the Pistons, well, I was only 1 year old. I was not even a year old at the time. But when the Pistons beat the Lakers in 2004 in Game 1, I'm sure at that time it's like, okay, kudos to Detroit. That's a hard-nosed, physical team defensively. But Kobe and Shaq and the supporting cast they had, Phil Jack, they'll figure it out. And they won Game 2 and then lost the rest of their games. 2011, Miami wins game 1. No surprise there. Looks like they're going to blow the doors off Dallas in game 2. And then the Mavericks make that crazy fourth quarter comeback. Dirk hits the layup with the left hand to win it. Like, there's certain times, man, in these finals, you think a team should be favored and is playing good basketball. Underdog steals a game, and now it feels different. Now, maybe this could be in a very different sense because this was more about an individual player as opposed to a collective. Maybe we're going to look back in a month and say, oh, this was kind of like that 0-1 finals, right? Allen Iverson goes for 48, steps over Ty Lue, and then the Lakers sweep them the rest of the way. Maybe. Again, that's more about one player. This is more about the collective Indiana led by, yes, a superstar, Tyrese Haliburton. Can I say one thing about Tyrese that I really am shocked by, that people have either short memories or just don't know very recent basketball history? People that say Tyrese Haliburton isn't a superstar, let me ask you this question. Was Chris Paul a superstar at his peak? Like New Orleans Hornets, Los Angeles Clippers, and then early Houston Rockets? Chris Paul, was that not a superstar? A guy who made Blake Griffin, again, Pat Bev was on his podcast saying Blake Griffin's not a Hall of Famer. Whatever. Blake Griffin was not Blake Griffin before Chris Paul got there. DeAndre Jordan wasn't anything outside of Chris Paul. Getting those guys involved, leadership, defense, like, and now Haliburton is not close to the defender that CP3 was, especially for CP3's size. But Chris Paul was one of the 12 best players in the NBA, and I think there are 12 superstars, 10, at least there tend to be, in the National Basketball Association. Especially if he goes on to win this title, like how can he say he's not a superstar? So, man, listen, kudos to the Indiana Pacers. That was a gutsy win in game 1, and it's been a gutsy postseason run. And so, listen, man, shout out to the Indiana Pacers. Again, I keep saying it. I picked Oklahoma City. I still feel good about that. This does have a little bit of a 2011 finals feel, where underdog is good. Now, Tyrese isn't as good as Dirk was at his peak. Now, again, Tyrese is still getting better, so we got to see. But Dirk is one of the 20 to 25 greatest players of all time. He's top 10 all time in scoring. Dirk is a legend. But Dallas team comes in, like, they've got size. They've got, smart players. Now, that was an older Mavericks team as opposed to this is a young Pacers team. But Siakam's been there. Miles Turner has been with the Pacers for a decade. He's been through a lot of the rebuild and the failed playoff runs and the sweeps to Cleveland. Like, he's been there before. So this is a battle-tested team, and I think they're ready for the moment. There's no question about it. Let's check the comments real quick before we move on to the Thunder side of things. My man Patrick Brown, who's from Indiana, so he is definitely pulling hard for the Pacers. What the Hally does it again. Pacers race to the finish line with checkered flags waving in game 1. A little reference to the Indy 500 there. I like it. That's what the Pacers are named after, is the pace cars. Most overrated player out here making game-winning shots. I will tell you, Sports PSP, how Oklahoma City will respond in game 2. Patrick, I'm rooting for the Pacers in honor of my cousin. There's sentimental aspects of it. No question about it. And again, Indiana never won an NBA title before, so that's going to be fun to see how that continues to progress. Before we move on, Tyrese Haliburton after his game 1 walk-off winner.
Tyrese, just take me through that last possession. You guys didn't call timeout. Take me through the last game possession.
Yeah, man, we got to stop. And coach trusts us in those moments to not call timeouts. Trust me in those moments. Guys trust me, and just trying to make a play. So, man, basketball's fun, man. Winning is fun. That's a great win for us.
Basketball is fun, and it was a big-time win for the Indiana Pacers. So, big game 2 coming up on Sunday night. I think that's at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. I will predict game 2 at the end of today's show. So, the losing team, let's look at the Thunder side of it. So, listen, I understand that there's a little bit of an overreaction today where it's almost in the opposite direction. Like, it feels like in moments like this where a team blows a big lead in the finals. And I don't know if it's just because this finals isn't maybe as hyped up as previous ones have been. Maybe that's why. But it feels like today, and in large part rightfully so, it's, man, Tyrese Haliburton, most clutch run in NBA history in the playoffs. And look at this scrappy Pacers team and the depth, and Carlisle's a championship coach, and what a win for them. And on the other side, the Oklahoma City stuff, it's, yeah, Shea had a good game, and they kind of didn't step up. Where it's, man, previous teams, if those Heatles have blown a 15-point lead in the finals, which actually they did against Dallas, I think it was exactly 15 to the Dallas Mavericks in the NBA Finals in 2011, we're crushing Miami. If Golden State, I mean, this is a series we're talking about, but blowing a 3-1 lead, we're crushing the Warriors. We are crushing some of these teams that we have high expectations for. So like that does, at least for the moment, just for today at the very least, folks, can we back off just a little bit with the dynasty talk? Listen, I know SGA is amazing. They've got depth. Dagnall's a great coach. I'll get to him in just a minute. They've got 15 draft picks up until 2032. They are set for the future and then some. They have the pieces to be a dynasty. A lot of teams have had the pieces to be a dynasty. Some of those teams haven't even won a championship in their history. Right? I mean, look. I mean, Sacramento Kings in the early 2000s had a great basketball team that could have reeled off a couple titles. Couldn't do it. And so, let's slow down just a little bit and crowning this team a dynasty, and let's hold them at least, if we're going to be consistent, to a dynasty standard. I'm going to try and keep it somewhere in the middle. So we can show you Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's numbers. He was actually generally pretty good in this basketball game, right? 38 points, which is the most points in a finals debut since Allen Iverson in 2001, and obviously what was one of the most iconic finals performances ever, the 48 points in game one of that finals. But 5 rebounds, only 3 assists. He did give you 3 steals, 14 of 30 from the field, and 3 for 6 from 3. Pretty efficient. So it wasn't a situation where Tyrese was taking a million shots. You'd like to be slightly more efficient on 30 shot attempts, but generally 14 of 30, it basically made almost half your shots. So it's not bad. I'm not going to crush at Shai Gilgeous-Alexander because he missed the fadeaway mid-range shot. That's a shot SGA is going to make more times than not. Now, if this comes to let's say it's game 4, let's go crazy for a minute. Let's say the Pacers have a 2-1 series lead in game 4 in Indiana. I think that's going to be a week from today, next Friday. And SGA has an opportunity to tie the game again, or to win the game, or to get it to a 3-point lead, and misses it. Then it's okay. That's twice now. You're 0 for 2. We're going to start asking questions about whether you can come up with the big moments in these big games in the NBA Finals. The thing that I found, I think there's a little bit of second guessing on Oklahoma City's starting lineup and not enough second guessing on their rotations the rest of the game. What I mean by that is, because I remember I'm watching the game, as it's about to come on and tip-off's they show the Indiana starting lineup, same as usual. And as soon as Mike Breen says, and there's a change in the Oklahoma City lineup, I'm like, what? Chet Holmgren is the big, Hartenstein to the bench, Isaiah Joe's in. Or was that Isaiah Joe, Case and Walls? Whatever. They started a guard in place. I think it was Case and Walls, come to think of it, actually. I want to make sure I get this right because I don't want to be inaccurate in this show. Yeah, it was Case and Walls. My bad. Case and Walls started, so the Thunder essentially went smaller. We're going to start Chet Holmgren as our center, bring Hartenstein off the bench. It worked. Getting off to that fast start, holding Indiana to 20 points, the best offensive lead, to 20 points in the first quarter. I mean, Oklahoma City's defense in this game, through large stretches, was as good as it was in the regular season all year long and in the playoffs all season long, where it was, this is a crazy stat where the Pacers had 19 turnovers in the first half, 25 for the basketball game. Oklahoma City entering last night when forcing 22 or more turnovers, 22-0, winning on average by 18 points per game. So, in that regard, they did their job through large stretches of the game. Now, fourth quarter, the Pacers go nuclear from 3. They're getting good looks. I thought the 2 big issues for Oklahoma City last night was this. Because we could talk about Jalen Williams' shot. I think it was 6 for 19. Chet Holmgren was a no-show in this basketball game. To me, the blame goes on Dagnall for one aspect of it, and then the Oklahoma City collective in the second aspect. The Dagnall aspect of it is, wait a second, you've been the best half-court defense in the league. And part of having a great half-court defense is having great either bigs inside or great long, help defenders, all of it, playing great team defense. It worked. I understood why you decided to put Hartenstein on the bench and put Case and Walls in, because he says, okay, the way Indiana likes to play, we're going to go up and down the floor, fast-paced. That's what we do. That's what killed the Knicks. We'll counter. We'll play the same way. And it worked through large stretches of that game. Hartenstein, Chet Holmgren never played a second of that basketball game on the floor together. What? How does that happen? Like that, and I thought, and again, the strategy was working even in the sense that Indiana, I feel like a bunch of their turnovers, didn't it feel like last night, every time they drove it in the paint, there'd be I feel like 7 Oklahoma City Thunders crowding the paint, and they throw a pass, and a guy in the perimeter, like an SGA or somebody, would grab it, take it the other way, and they get a transition layup or dunk. It felt like if you got more help inside, maybe the perimeter defenders wouldn't have had to work as hard to collapse on the paint for an inside, for a guy driving to the basket or off the pick and roll, all of those different things. That part's on Dagnall. Holmgren, who was bad last night, again, young player. It is year 2 for Chet Holmgren as a starter in the NBA. He missed a lot of time this year. We get that. That happens to young players in the NBA Finals. I assume he'll get better. Holmgren and Hartenstein have to be on the floor at some point together. The second aspect of it, and to me, the biggest reason that the Pacers got back into this game in the fourth quarter, is the reason that they've been so successful all playoffs long, and the reason, to me, frankly, the biggest reason why they beat the New York Knicks in the third round in the conference finals is that they controlled the pace. They just did it in a different way that they did in the conference finals. Whereas against the Knicks, we know about Tibbs, and you got fired this week really in large part for this reason. Running his starters in the ground, playing them a ton of minutes. Brunson, Cat are just gassed come fourth quarter. It's going to be a track meet. We're just going to run you off the floor. You have to take Brunson out in some spots. We're going to hope we can stop Cat. We're just going to run you up and down the floor. It's why they pulled away in that game 6 the way that they did after it was close at halftime. Against Oklahoma City, they were running and gunning, but because OKC's half-court defense was as good as it was, they said, Oklahoma City kind of did the same thing with countering with their starting lineup. They said, oh, okay, let's slow it down. Possession by possession. Let's move the basketball. I mean, in some cases, the Pacers actually played ISO. Andrew Nembhard, who I've loved since college, by the way. I was a big Nembhard fan when he came out of college. You can ask Mike Guido that. Shout out to Mike. Andrew Nembhard down 6 with a little over 2 minutes left. He's got SGA, which I believe they're both tight with each other. I think they're both Canadian. Is crossing him up, shooting a step back 3. I'm watching. I'm like, what are you? All right, it's a 3-point game. Like, to me, outside of obviously the Haliburton game winner, that felt like the shot of the game to me, where it was Oklahoma City, like Indiana's made their run. OKC's going to pull away. Even when Shea hits the shot, the mid-ranger with about a minute and a half to go to put him up 5, I'm like, okay, that's it. They're going to pull. Nope. A 5-point deficit with a minute and a half left is nothing to a Pacers team that has closed 9-point deficits with less than a minute left. Like, that's not a big sort of adjustment that they have to make over the course of a playoff run over the series. So listen, I don't think this you need to overreact in OKC. I'll sort of get into my game 2 prediction later. I'll save the stat I'm going to give for that segment, even though I could technically use it for this. So stay tuned for that. But listen, I still feel like Oklahoma City is the better basketball team. But I do like last night sort of reaffirmed this is going to be a closer series than you think. This is going to be a more entertaining finals than the casual fans on social media and the meme accounts and otherwise would like you to believe. Contrasting style of play, very smart coaches. One's a championship coach. One's a younger guy who's done a great job in his brief tenure in the league. Let's see what happens. So Indiana up a game to nothing. And man, it's going to be a fun finals. I'll tell you that. I had Thunder in 6. I still feel good about that pick. But Indiana certainly reaffirmed there's a reason that we're here on the stage. So kudos to the Pacers for their game 2 win. Or sorry, my bad, for their game 1 win last night. And it's just I keep harkening back to just watching, especially in the second half. I'm like, okay, when are Holmgren and Hartenstein going to be on the floor together? Like it's almost a little bit what the Timberwolves tried, and they got to a conference finals doing it, I guess. But generally, it was still a clunky fit. When they made the big trade, the controversial trade for Rudy Gobert, they said, hey, we're just going to be the biggest team in the league. We're going to have to, Twin Towers with Cat and with Rudy Gobert. That's how we're going to defend teams, and they're not going to score much on us down low. That's kind of what Oklahoma City's done with Chet Holmgren and with Hartenstein. We're just going to be bigger than you. We're going to be longer than you. I understood why they did it in the starting lineup. I don't understand why they didn't go back to that once Indiana started because they got close in that third quarter. They got it down to like 8 points. Then the Thunder would reel off 4 or 5 straight points in a row, get it back to double digits. And so I was shocked that Dagnall went away from that. I imagine he'll go back to that. Maybe not even the starting lineup. But at some point in that game on Sunday night, he'll go back to that 2 big lineup with Hartenstein and Holmgren. Be back after the break, but when we come back, I still have a little bit more to say about this Aaron Rodgers to the Steelers pairing, and I'm still sick that this is even a thing. Be back after the break. More pressure on Mike Tomlin than on Aaron Rodgers, and it's not particularly close. Detail that in just a minute. Welcome back to Carving Up Live. Before I get into my topic on the Pittsburgh Steelers in just a second, wanted to advertise something that we've been trying now at the Grid Network, especially to start this finals, and something hopefully we can continue to utilize and engage more with you guys, the audience, moving forward, especially I imagine once we get closer to football season and once that really cranks up. But myself, Arthur Hurst, are going to put together a series of post-game reaction shows. We did it last night. I was on there solo. Arthur was getting back from the restaurant where he was watching the game. He left with 3.5 minutes left. He told me during that show last night, he was like, yeah, OKC's up 8. Like, the Pacers could win, but Oklahoma City's not going to blow this. Like, that's not going to happen. And he gets home and he's like, holy crap, the Pacers just stole this basketball game. I actually had a live reaction to the Haliburton shot. That's on social media. It's on the Grid's YouTube channel as well as on the Grid's IG account. So be sure to check that out. It's also on my personal Instagram. So I was, I think, as stunned as everybody else. I love Dwayne Wade's reaction, by the way, to the game-winning shot. He was, by the way, it looks like D. Wade. Was he watching the game on either a phone, tablet, or very small TV? I'm like, man, you're Dwayne Wade. You're like one of the 5 greatest 2 guards of all time. You got to be watching the NBA Finals on a big screen TV. You imagine, Mr. Wade and Mrs. Union aren't exactly short on cash. I was like, where's the big screen TV? Not judging, but I was like, dang, where's D. Wade at? Looked like he was watching the game in like a closet or something. Anyways, but we got game 2, post-game reaction show. You can show the graphic for that. On Sunday night at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That'll be right around the time that the game is ending. We may get another crazy finish at the end. Who knows? The fact that we got to do a live reaction to the Haliburton shot was incredible. I think for the show and for the entertainment aspect of it and the engagement. But NBA Finals Game 2 post-game reaction show. Myself, Arthur Hurst, maybe more. We'll see what happens. That'll be at 10:30 Eastern, 7:30 p.m. Pacific time on Sunday night. So right as the game ends, right around the time the game's ending, may get the last 5 minutes, react to that. So very excited for Game 2, and I'll predict that at the end of today's show. But I still got more to say. I still got more to say about this Pittsburgh Steelers situation because I'm still pretty pissed off that this is even materialized. Like, I knew as far back as March, 3 months, that Aaron Rodgers was going to be a Pittsburgh Steelers. There was public flirtation. He visited a facility. He worked out with DK Metcalf. I mean, most recently on that podcast, remember he said, that he was asked by a fan, like jokingly, will you sign with the Chicago Bears? And he's like, no, but I may play for a team that plays the Bears this season in Chicago. Like, dude, which the Steelers obviously play the Bears in Chicago. It's like, bro, like, come on. All of this, and I did a 24-minute rant on the show. You can check that out on YouTube. It's on the channel now. One of the big discussions, though, since Aaron signed with the Steelers or since the news broke that Aaron was going to sign with the Steelers a little over 24 hours ago, one of the pervading narratives and storylines has been, hey, who's under more pressure? Is it between these two, we imagine, future Hall of Famers? Aaron's going to be a no doubt first ballot Hall of Famer. We'll see with Tomlin. Who's under more pressure? Aaron Rodgers, the quarterback, Mike Tomlin, the head coach. I don't think it's even like a debate. I think it's Tomlin by a country mile. Aaron, for all his faults, legacy set. You're a Super Bowl champion, Super Bowl MVP in 2010. Yes, you've underachieved like crazy in the playoffs since then, but you got the ring. If nothing else, you got the ring. Almost like a Clayton Kershaw aspect of this. All right, remember Clayton Kershaw in his prime with the Dodgers? Man, left a lot of meat on the bone, left a lot to be desired in some of those postseason starts and the NLDS and NLCS. But Clayton Kershaw got a ring with the Dodgers 2020, so he's good. He's got the championship. Baseball's a little bit different than football in that regard, but still. Aaron Rodgers is the 4-time league MVP. That's second all-time to Peyton Manning. Aaron Rodgers, the all-time leader in passer rating in NFL history. That's kind of his calling card. He's the only quarterback with 500 touchdown passes and fewer than 200 picks. For all my critiques of Aaron, he's the most gifted thrower of the football I've seen this side of Mahomes. All of it. Matter of fact, he probably set the sort of foundation for Patrick, for potentially Caleb Williams, who plays a very similar brand of football to Aaron and to Mahomes. All of those things are true. For all my critiques of Aaron, for as much as his reputation, rightfully so I might add, has taken a big hit these last 4 years, legacy set. It's set. Not to mention that I used to say it all the time. The show don't say it much anymore because he's retired. But I used to say all the time, like, guys, Tom Brady is the great outlier. Don't stop comparing your 40-year-old quarterbacks to Tom Brady. Phillip Rivers aged poorly. Eli Manning aged poorly. Peyton Manning, Mount Rushmore quarterback in my mind. 5-time MVP. Maybe revolutionized the way that the game is played at the line of scrimmage. Peyton Manning was awful his last year in the NFL. 9 touchdowns, 17 picks. He was on my fantasy team that year, by the way. I had to bench him within like 2 or 3 weeks. That hurt me because I love Peyton. Go Vols, all of it. Peyton was awful his last year in the NFL. That Broncos defense won that Super Bowl. I mean, go down the list. Like, there's so many. Drew Brees was a shell of himself at the end of his career once he hit 40 years old. Like, that's Big Ben was just, I mean, he should have retired 3 years before he ended up retiring. He was shot by the end. That's kind of Aaron Rodgers. As a matter of fact, Aaron's actually better than a lot of those guys late in their careers. So kudos to him. I mean, the numbers aren't good. We can show you. Aaron, the last 3 years since 2022, touchdown interception ratio is not bad, but Aaron's TD interception ratio is always pretty good. He's not very accurate, not a lot of yards. Pass rating's not good. He doesn't win a lot. That's just how quarterbacks age, folks, especially when you just suffered an Achilles injury less than 2 years ago. There's not, I mean, in the short term, listen, I'll rip Aaron. He'll have bad performances. He's going to blame teammates, blame coaches, blame literally everybody but himself. That's the Aaron Rodgers story. But Mike Tomlin, to me, is the bigger story. Why is Aaron Rodgers in a Steelers uniform to begin with? Because I know it's darn sure not to compete for a Super Bowl. I know that. You're telling me the guy that's been, at best, the 15th best quarterback in the league since 2022 is going to take the Pittsburgh Steelers, who have a mediocre to bad offensive line, who, in terms of the running game, leave a lot to be desired. Najee Harris is now gone, by the way, so it's just Jalen Warren at this point as your lead back. And Arthur Smith, look, he was better than his predecessor as an offensive coordinator. He's still not terribly creative. There's a reason Atlanta moved on from him the way that they did. You're telling me that guy's going to lead the Steelers. You're telling me objectively the third best quarterback in his division, a distant third, by the way, behind Burrow and Lamar, whichever order you have those guys in, is going to put the Steelers in position to compete for a Super Bowl? Well, I mean, he's better than all their previous starters. He's not better than Russell Wilson. We showed the numbers yesterday. We don't have the graphic today. We showed the numbers yesterday. They're the same guy in the last 3 years. So if it's not to compete for a Super Bowl, which it's obviously not if the Steelers are, unless they're just totally delusional, it's to preserve the non-losing season streak. Because with Mason Rudolph, that would have been in jeopardy. Mason's a good backup. You know, has had some solid moments in Pittsburgh. Nowhere near a franchise quarterback, obviously. And he would have won about 6 or 7 games with Mason, with the talent that you already have on this roster. Aaron will get you to 9 or 10 wins. You still have a great defense. DK Metcalf's your number 1 receiver. Like, you've got pieces in the squad, and Tomlin is still a very, very good coach. But when you're calling card, Mike Tomlin has 3 things that he believes he can hang his hat on. And generally throughout the course of his career, he has. One is the non-losing season thing, which he has never had. Number 2, great defense. And number 3, maybe most important, I can motivate anything. I can motivate any player to do anything that I call them to do within their capabilities. I'm the best motivating coach in the NFL. It's like me and Dan Campbell, baby. It is us two. I can motivate any team to have any level of success. So the non-losing season thing, folks, as long as Aaron Rodgers is healthy, and knock on wood, we obviously hope Aaron will be healthy. I think they'll keep that streak going for Coach Tomlin. But if they don't, if all of this, according to Brooke Pryor of ESPN, that Mike Tomlin was the head of the Steelers snake, the head of the contingent to go get Aaron Rodgers, the guy who put the Steelers in position to say, hey, we will literally wait until opening day for you to make your decision. That was what was reported by Adam Schefter, best in the business. They waited 3 whole months from the start of free agency to now for Aaron Rodgers to sign. If all the drama that we know is going to come with Aaron, because it's Aaron, all of that, and you have your first losing season, well, then you can't hang that. You can't wear that hat anymore. That's not part of your calling card anymore. Well, he doesn't lose more games than he wins, for short stretches. That's gone now. But if it plays out the way I think it's going to play out, 9-10 wins, you will, one of two things. Either you'll barely miss the playoffs, in which you're like, okay, we're basically back in the same situation as last year. We have a mid-first round pick and what's going to be a good quarterback draft. We'll have to trade up to get a quarterback. Aaron's gone with drama and bad vibes, all of it on a 1-year deal, and you accomplish literally nothing. But worse, though, for Tomlin at least, because I think the following scenario I think would be worse for Mike Tomlin than if they don't make the playoffs. Than if they have a losing season. What if the Steelers make the playoffs? 6 or 7 seed, 9-10 wins. And they get blasted in round 1. Pick a team. Kansas City, Buffalo, Baltimore, maybe Cincinnati, maybe Houston. Pick a team. Just mollywops the Steelers in round 1. Well, you can just add that to the list of a lot of recent blowout, not just blowout losses, but again, if Mike Tomlin's if his calling card is going to be great defense and great motivation, then why did the last 5 playoff games for the Steelers start like this? 2017 against the Jaguars, they started down 21-0 at home. 2020 against the Cleveland Browns, they started down 28-0 at home. At Kansas City, 2021, started down 35-7. Against Buffalo, at Buffalo 2 years ago, down 21-0. Against your rival, the team you always play close. Doesn't matter the talent on the Ravens, Steelers, one team's way better than the other. Doesn't matter. Harbaugh, Tomlin always play each other close. That is always a 20-17, 17-14 type of football game. And the Ravens blew the doors off. You started up 21-0, and that was all she wrote. If we have another playoff game where it is, again, pick a team, Baltimore, Buffalo, Kansas City, Houston, doesn't matter. And it's 17-0, 21-0, 24-0. That's 6 games in a row. Your defense has been bad, and clearly you don't have your team ready to go. Well, Bryson, there's a talent gap. 5 straight games? So were they less talented than the Blake Bortles-led Jaguars? Really? Were they less talented than the Cleveland Browns, who they won the division over in 2020? Were they less talented, rather, than the Buffalo Bills in 2023, where if you take Josh Allen off the team, now I know that's the big difference. I get that. You're telling me they have a worse roster than the Bills 2 years ago? Despite the fact that Buffalo only won 1 more game than you did, despite a massive gap at quarterback. You're telling me, again, the Ravens are more talented than Pittsburgh, but again, throughout the last 15 years, Ravens, Steelers always play close. Always. Playoffs, regular season, they always play tight. That game was over after the first quarter. Again. So one of 2 things will happen, or one of 3 things, I guess. Either you will go 9-8, 10-7, miss the playoffs, and you're back to square one. You're back to mediocrity, and Tomlin probably doesn't get fired. Or you go 8-9. You lose a few close games because Aaron botches the clock like he did against the Colts last year in that one game. Or Aaron is so terrified to throw a pick, he won't push the ball down the field, which he will have to because that's the way the offense is designed in Pittsburgh. Well, now you can't say you don't have a losing season anymore, so then what are you as a coach? Well, I'm the defense and I'm the motivation guy. Well, what if you do make the playoffs, you get trounced again, and your defense is bad and your team comes out flat again for the 6th game in a row? Can we show the graphic? Teams, this is going to be a big graphic, so I'll try and read it as quickly as I can for those that are listening on the podcast. Teams that have won a playoff game more recently than the Steelers and how many times they've done it. Oh, that's a lot of teams. That's 24 to be exact. Kansas City has won 17 playoff games more recently than Pittsburgh. By the way, the Steelers' last playoff win actually was against the Chiefs pre-Mahomes in 2016. Kansas City's won 17. The Eagles have won 10. Niners 9. Patriots, Rams, and Bills have won 7. Buccaneers 6. Bengals 5. Jaguars, Saints, Texans, Packers, Ravens, Titans have won 3. Commanders, Cowboys, Falcons, Vikings, and Lions have won 2. And then the Browns, Giants, the Browns, along with the Chargers, Colts, and Seahawks, have won a playoff game more recently than the Pittsburgh Steelers. Daniel Jones can say he won a playoff game more recently than Mike Tomlin. The Cleveland Browns franchise can say against the Steelers in Pittsburgh, against the Steelers who won the division that year, can say they won a playoff game more recently than Mike Tomlin and the Steelers. And you mean to tell me that Mike Tomlin shouldn't be on the very, very, very hot seat? Red hot seat. If last season literally plays out the exact same way, along with the Aaron Rodgers drama, when it was Mike Tomlin's idea to pursue him, when that would be 9 straight seasons without a playoff win in Pittsburgh? I mean, Tom Thibodeau, a different sport, I get it. Tom Thibodeau was 2 wins away from the finals, got fired. Because the Knicks are like, you're a good culture guy, you build us from nothing, and we can't get to the next level with you. And when Mike Tomlin cares about something that no other team in the NFL cares about, the non-losing season streak, when his style of football, when he is just allergic to offense of any sort, particularly creative offense. Listen, there's a narrative going around a lot of times in the NFL media that says that, only offensive coaches in today's NFL can win. I totally disagree with that. I think defensive coaches can win if they have a smart offensive staff, if they have a great OC, if they have a great quarterback, certainly, but the play calling matters, folks. It does. When's the last great OC the Steelers had? Oh, it was Todd Haley. Remember the Steelers with the Killer Bees with Roethlisberger, Antonio Brown, and Le'Veon Bell. All of them fizzled out. But at their peak, with Todd Haley calling plays, and Mike Tomlin fired him. Because of a difference of personalities, whatever the case may be. It's got to be done his way. Doesn't matter if it works or not. Oh, it works for 10 wins. Doesn't get you jack past that. So all that's come back home. There's immensely more pressure on Mike Tomlin than there is on Aaron Rodgers. It's not even close. Not even close. It's amazing that they actually signed this guy. It really is. And that they just let him dictate everything, which is Terry Bradshaw said last. By the way, something else too. Like Bradshaw has been critical of Tomlin. He's been 10 times critical of Aaron. More critical of Aaron. What's going to happen when on the Fox pregame show and they show a Steelers highlight from a 1 o'clock loss to, I don't know, pick a team, the Bengals or something? What's going to happen when Terry Bradshaw rips Aaron to shreds? Aaron then, probably on McAfee, calls out Terry Bradshaw 2 days later, and then Mike Tomlin's in the position at that Wednesday press conference. Coach, you got to pick a side. Greatest player at the quarterback position in the history of your franchise, who won you 4 Super Bowls, or the 41-year-old beat-up, non-committed guy on a 1-year contract? And it was your idea to get him. Comment here by Patrick. How many players were going these darkness retreats with ayahuasca Rodgers? Listen, who knows? Listen, one thing too, I'm expecting in the next few weeks, like Alan Lazard has to be a Steeler soon, right? Because we know that's Aaron's buddy. Lazard was with him in Green Bay, went with him to the Jets, and he's still with the Jets. Is Lazard? You have to imagine he's a Steeler at this point, right? Like the Aaron will beg the Steelers front office to give up like a 7th round pick to bring him in. I don't know. This just came in, according to Sports Media Watch, that Game 1 of the Pacers Thunder NBA Finals average a 4.7 rating. Yikes. And 8.91 million viewers on ABC, making it the lowest rated and least watched finals opener since Nielsen tracked them back in 1988, excluding the COVID-impacted 2020 and 2021 series. So take out the finals in 20 and 21. It's the lowest rated Game 1 in history. Again, this is what I've said, where it's for it to be a compelling storyline like of a series, the basketball has to be great, which, by the way, Game 1 in, pretty good. We're in good shape. The finals has been very entertaining. But it's going to have to continue to be that way because, folks, again, this is going to sound elitist. This is going to sound like I hate the little guy and whatever. It does help the NBA if the Celtics are in the finals and if the Lakers are in the finals and if Steph Curry and the Warriors are in the finals. It just does. In large part because we perceive those teams to be the big bad villain, right? And there's just not in this finals. I know Oklahoma City won 68 games. They got the league MVP. No one's like actively like, God, I hate the Thunder. People may hate Shea's incessant, flopperoonie foul baiting, but they don't really hate the Thunder. They don't really hate Shea that much. They just hate what Shea does. And at times did it last night in the last 5 minutes. And so it's going to have to be a compelling series. And I think Adam Silver invited this with the new CPA, which I've been pretty vocal about on the show. I think is bad for the NBA. I think there's no question about it. Patrick in the comments again. Mike Tomlin, and Patrick came up with this. I think it's a good comparison. Mike Tomlin equals Doc Rivers. Good during the regular season, underachieved during the postseason, holding on to one championship from 2008. Yeah, Doc won his in 08. No coach I've ever seen in my life has got more runway off a title than Doc Rivers from that 08 title with the Celtics, and no coach has got more runway, probably because of the non-losing season thing, from a championship that he won. Oh, son of a gun. Patrick is right. That was 08 too. See, you were ahead of me on this one, Patrick. Yeah, the Steelers' last title was in the 2008 season, Super Bowl 43. They got to another. Now, funny enough, by the way, they both got to another championship series. Doc Rivers got to the 2010 finals, lost to the Lakers. Mike Tomlin's Steelers got to the Super Bowl in 2010, lost Super Bowl 45 to Green Bay. There's some legit comparisons here. So it's amazing how addicted they are to just mediocrity and whatnot. Next topic. And I'm always trying to be very careful when I do this. Anytime I talk about a member of the media, because a lot of times my show's not really big enough, I'll be totally transparent, for grifters to aggregate what I say out of context. I'm sure once I get to that level, that will be the case, because that's how Twitter runs today. So I want to say this in the front end. In terms of the road that he took to get where he is at, particularly how he's expanded his personal empire, a lot of respect for Stephen A. Smith. You don't get there by being lazy. Matter of fact, you get there by being one of the hardest working individuals in the business. So the road Stephen A. took to get here, mad love and respect. His takes sometimes, though, are devoid of context and are confusing at best. So he said this on First Take the other day when he was talking about the NBA All-Star Game and how Adam Silver announced the other day how he was going to transition from Team USA versus the world. For the record, been begging for the NBA to do that for years. So I'm glad that they're going to finally institute it, even if the world may actually kick our behinds this year in the All-Star Game. But nonetheless, Stephen A., quote, "If this doesn't work, I think you're going to see the NBA do away with All-Star Weekend. And this era of players will forever be stained for the rest of their lives because All-Star Weekend was banished because of a lack of effort." End quote. Kevin Durant retweeted this. It was a tweet from Legion Hoops quoting Stephen A. And Kevin Durant retweeted it just with one word: dramatic. Listen, KD's a great follow on social media. I think we all know that by this point. Here's what I have trouble with. Is that the greatest league in the world, certainly most popular by a country mile, we know is the National Football League. Do we not remember what we were saying about the Pro Bowl until they finally canceled it? I mean, flag football would look better than this. Like, they actually transitioned to flag football, I think, last year. They actually, when I was in Orlando for the college program, that's where they have the Pro Bowl right now at Camping World Stadium. And they had the flag football game this year. And, Disney was offering a package to where some of us could go, and I was like, I don't know. I don't want to see. And I ended up watching clips online. It was bad. I'm glad I did not attend that. But do we not remember what we were saying about the Pro Bowl right before they canceled it? We don't want them to be playing like it's the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl, but could it be a little bit more than two-hand touch from the greatest athletes in the world playing the NFL? Right? Could there be a little bit of situation where, a Patrick Mahomes or an Aaron Rodgers, or going back a decade plus ago, like an Andrew Luck, are being forced out of the pocket, being forced to make tough throws down the field, and getting 55 to 60% of what we tend to get from these guys in the regular season, and see why they were Pro Bowlers? Speaking of that, the guys that were Pro Bowlers, good enough to be Pro Bowlers. Do we not remember the time when, really recently, where Tyler Huntley, Mac Jones were Pro Bowlers? We do remember, because all these guys were pulling out either due to injuries or due to them making the Super Bowl, whatever the case may be. Guys were saying, yeah, hell with this. This is no fun. I'm not going to be a part of the Pro Bowl. And so, Drake May, who has a bright future. Drake May was a Pro Bowler this year. Drake May was the third or fourth best rookie quarterback. Far and away the worst quarterback in his division. He'll get better. I love Drake May, but he was a rookie. He's a rookie in bad circumstances. He was a Pro Bowler last year in the AFC, where they have all the great quarterbacks. We don't remember that the Pro Bowl just devolved into an unwatchable product as of late. And so the NFL said, okay, we're just going to get rid of the Pro Bowl. Nobody's saying, oh, you know what? That's a stain on Patrick Mahomes' legacy. That is, Myles Garrett, are you kidding me? Did you not? TJ Watt, you didn't try hard enough. These offensive linemen, oh, you were lazy, and the coaches didn't care about it, and Justin Jefferson wasn't running hard enough on his route to the Pro Bowl, and their legacy is tainted forever because the Pro Bowl, as it once was, no longer exists. No, we don't do that. We say, Pro Bowl kind of sucks. Especially now it's not even like a full-fledged flag football game. Like I used to referee flag football. Them guys and gals went out there a lot harder than the guys do at the Pro Bowl, which I'm not even faulting the guys for. It's the reality. You're not trying to jeopardize, your future and particularly your wallet for a game that means absolutely positively nothing. So, and that's why I've defended the NBA players on, by the way, over the last couple of years. We don't say it impacts the legacies of NFL players, that the Pro Bowl is quite literally dead. Nobody watches the Pro Bowl. We focus on the regular season, which obviously the NFL is the best regular season because there's only 17 games. There's more of a sense of urgency. Every single game matters. And in the playoffs, it's like after the AFC title game, the week leading up to Super Bowl, you got Pro Bowl. Okay, you got the dodgeball, and it's kind of cheesy. Again, nobody watches. It's not terribly entertaining. We don't say, man, these spoiled rich NFL players, they just, back in the day, man, Brett Favre was going at it, and God rest his soul, the late great Sean Taylor nailed a punter. Remember that in that that Pro Bowl about 20 years ago? We don't do that. So I'm supposed to think less of Steph Curry, of LeBron James, of Kevin Durant, guys who have worked untold hours and still do to this day. KD at 36, Steph at 37, Bron at 40. Their whole lives. Bron is maybe the greatest player ever. Steph is undoubtedly the greatest shooter ever. KD's maybe the most gifted scorer ever. Worked their tails off to get to that point. And still to this day, still are chasing greatness. You saw what they did at Team USA last year. You saw KD hitting those clutch shots. You saw Bron getting everybody involved and doing what he had to do on the offensive and defensive end. You saw what Steph Curry did against Serbia and in the fourth quarter against France. You don't get that way by being what Stephen A. appears to be implying, if not outright saying, hey, they're just lazy. They don't care enough about the game. Are you freaking kidding me? Really? That's what we're going to try and put out there? You wonder why the narrative surrounding the NBA persists, because the guys and gals with the biggest microphones continue to put out this nonsense as if the guys in the NBA don't care about the game anymore. Stop. This is on the front porch yelling at the kids, get off my lawn, whippersnapper. They don't do that in the NFL. They don't do it in baseball because baseball is far and away the best all-star game. Really the only good all-star game, if we're going to be honest, but it's entertaining. We don't do that for baseball. But for some reason, listen, maybe it all is as simple as pundits and journalists from a certain era will go out of their way, however dishonest, to validate, to protect the legacy of Michael Jordan. A lot of this is that. You saw the hate that LeBron has dealt with his entire career. I mean, man could go out there. Remember the 51 burger he had against the Warriors in the 2018 finals in game one? I mean, it's the biggest mismatch in a finals I've ever seen in my life. That 2018 finals, Golden State and Cleveland. As a Warriors fan, who I might as well have known we were going to win the championship at that point. Bron put the fear of God in me, bruh. Bron had Steph and KD, two of the greatest ever, with their heads like, man, he killing us. We ain't got no answer for this guy. And because J.R. Smith that made a boneheaded mistake. Bron didn't do enough. Why did Bron pass the ball to George? He dropped 49 in regulation. What do you want him to do? All to protect the legacy of Michael Jordan. Which, I mean, it's why Jordan came out recently and was like, chill, guys. Like, the way the game moves forward, the way that the game has evolved for these players is because we've paved the way. And the way the game is going to continue to evolve is because they paved the way on the floor. And it's up to us, those of us that are not playing, to recognize their greatness, give credit where credit is due, and then pave the way for the next generation of basketball players. But if we just continue to just be stuck and stubborn, it's Jordan and bust. If this guy and Jordan, he's not that. They don't do it in the NFL. They don't do it in Major League Baseball. I'm not a hockey fan. I'm going to assume they don't do it in hockey. I mean, listen, again, I don't follow hockey at all. Wayne Gretzky, the great one, greatest hockey player ever, no doubt, obviously, from what I've read and what I've been told from hockey fans. When Ovechkin passed him on the all-time goals, as the all-time goals leader in NHL history, was beloved, was showered with praise. Gretzky it was great. And when Braun broke Kareem's record, now Kareem's not considered the GOAT. He should be in the conversation. I've said that for a long time. When Braun passes Kareem in the game in February of 2023, it was love and adulation that night. This is amazing. This kid from Akron is the all-time leading scorer. Look at the longevity. He's still scoring 36 points at whatever he was at that point, 38 years old. And then the next day, hey, still not Jordan. He can't score like Jordan did. It's so counterproductive, and kudos to KD. Like, just one-word response. Dramatic. The Pro Bowl died at the hands of the current NFL players. We don't look at that as a knock on their legacies, but all in the protect the name of the great Michael Jordan, who, by the way, doesn't exactly need defending. I think Jordan's resume speaks for itself. Like, I think Braun's the GOAT, but it's close. I've always said those who think it's Braun by a mile or Jordan by a mile are intellectually dishonest. That's an absurd opinion to have. Regardless, Jordan does not need you to defend him. His legacy will do that for you. 6 championships, 6 finals MVPs, 5 regular season MVPs, 10-time scoring champion, all of it. He doesn't need you to trash the current generation of players to shine his legacy. So, respectfully to Stephen A. Smith, who's paved the way for a lot of folks in this business, and who I've immense respect for the road he took to get to where he got. This is absurd, and we've got to stop doing this as a media, as those covering basketball. It's counterproductive, and it's the reason I'm not saying this Pacers Thunder final was going to get a good number anyway. Maybe if the pervasive narratives that were surrounding the NBA weren't so much so, maybe it would get a better number. That's where I'm at. Yeah, Patrick, the media is to blame for MJ's coverage. This goes back to 89-90 when Jordan was the best player to ever do it before winning anything, discrediting what Kareem had accomplished. Yeah, I mean, listen, before Jordan had won his first championship in 1991, Kareem, to me, I wasn't alive for the time, but just going on where I have players ranked, Kareem was the runaway greatest player of all time. I've said this. Whoever you have, LeBron James, Michael Jordan. By the way, can I say this too? That's another thing that has got to calm down is, and I even talked about this. Shout out to Barry Grant Jr. He co-founded the Grid Network and is the host of the All Even podcast. I literally called into Barry's live show, which I never do under any circumstances, but I was so ticked off with what I've been seeing. This was about 3 months ago, so a few weeks before the playoffs started. And Steph Curry had like it might have been when Steph Curry his 4,000th three. I think Steph had done something amazing. He had that stretch. Remember in like February and March when Jimmy Butler got there and Steph was just torching everybody. It's like, oh, the old Steph Curry's back. And the next day on First Take, it's Mad Dog, it's Stephen A. Again, guys I have respect for. But Stephen A. said, a player texted me. Steph Curry couldn't average 20 points a game in our because we would have beat him. I mean, guys, what are we doing? What are we doing? Which I've always said on the Steph discussion, that's code for we can't stop him, so we just would have hurt him. Which I think Steph would have been able to handle that. It's counterproductive. I mean, before the playoffs, who's greater? LeBron, Jordan. Boy, that's not the most overused take of all time or segment of all time. Listen, if it's July, if free agency's over and baseball's in their dog days of the season and training camp hasn't started yet, man, have at it. Do a whole show on LeBron versus Jordan because there's nothing to talk about. Let's keep it real at that point. Not during the playoffs. It's tired, it's frankly lazy, and it's counterproductive to the growth of the NBA. Folks say, oh, politics is why the NBA is not as popular, or there's too many threes. No. This is what's hurting the NBA. This is what's hurting the National Basketball Association. And Patrick, since then, the media has made millions off of Jordan's legacy to destroy LeBron's. It's so lazy. I mean, it's one thing too, and then we'll move on, because I get really, really worked up about this topic. It's the reason I phoned into Barry's show when I did that time. Like, to use the NFL as a comparison, because the NFL is the most popular pro sports league. I think college football is the most popular American sport, but as far as pro leagues, NBA is to me the clear number 2. Mahomes is pursuing Jordan. Mahomes is pursuing Brady. Like, I don't think you can. I don't think. I know that today you cannot make the case that Mahomes is ahead of Brady. And there are those who say he'll never pass Brady. That's probably true. But I think the general consensus is, yeah, Brady's the clear GOAT. Mahomes could pass him. He might. Yeah, if he can, at the pace he's at now. I mean, Brady went 10 years without winning a Super Bowl. So I don't imagine Mahomes will have a similar streak of not winning a championship. Yeah, Mahomes can stack some rings, and if he can put together the longevity of Tom, and if he wins maybe more MVPs than Brady, that's an interesting conversation. If he has a higher win percentage, all of that. It's a fun discussion to have, and we don't freaking tear down Mahomes. There are those who feel strongly about Tom never being replaced. But they're not like, yeah, Mahomes isn't that good. Remember that one game where Mahomes gagged and choked? Man, he's not even... We don't do that in the NFL. We don't say Myles Garrett's not as good as Reggie White. For the record, he's not. But there is actually there is a comparison there, by the way. I think Myles Garrett is the modern Reggie White, just in terms of how he plays the game. But it's not. Reggie White was amazing, and Myles Garrett sucks. We don't do that. It's absurd. We don't do it in baseball either. So I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just because Jordan had such an influence on American culture in the 90s. Maybe it's a nostalgia. I don't know what it is. It's really, really silly. And that the NBA players are the fault for the All-Star game. Yeah, and NFL players are the fault for the Pro Bowl being dead. We don't crush them. So there you go. All right. Come back after the break, and we'll predict Game 2 of the NBA Finals in just 1 minute. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Carving Up Live. So, listen, we know how exciting that Game 1 finish was last night between the Oklahoma City Thunder, Indiana Pacers, and Haliburton doing Haliburton things. But one thing, too, and before we get to Game 2 and my prediction for it, because I want to go and pull this. I wish I could put it on the screen here. Ben Golliver. Shout out to Ben Golliver, works for the Washington Post, covers the NBA. Wrote a book called Bubble Ball, which I read late last year. Great book. Kind of a depressing book, to be honest, because it just takes you back to the drubs of the pandemic, and we were all isolated. Like, it was not a fun time, as we all know. But he basically just covers the whole NBA bubble and behind the scenes aspects of it and the conversations that he had with players. So shout out to Ben Golliver. But if I can pull this tweet up here. So he tweeted this last night, and this is according to ESPN, that the tweet says, the Pacers have now cheated death 4 times in this year's playoffs. So with 35 seconds left and the Bucks up 7, they had a 97.9% chance to win. Pacers obviously won. Up 7 in the final minute, game 2 of the second round. The Cavaliers had a 95.9% chance to win. Pacers cheated death. Haliburton hit the buzzer beater. The Knicks, up 14 points in the final 3 minutes. Game 1 Eastern Conference Finals. Had a 99.7% chance to win. Pacers came back. Haliburton, Reggie Miller choked. They won in overtime. And last night, game 1 of the finals. Thunder, up 9 in the final 3 minutes. Had a 96.4% chance to win. Pacers made the run. Haliburton hit the game winner with 0.3 of a second left to win it. So, again, cheated death is a good way to put it. This Pacers team is resilient. It's the greatest clutch run I've seen by a player/team in my life, and really in NBA history, if we're being honest. So kudos to Indiana. That is pretty remarkable stuff, and a good grab there by Ben Golliver at the Washington Post. All right. Game 2 of the finals is on Sunday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So let's go and get the background music going. Here we go. So, game 2. So, in this matchup, Oklahoma City is a 10.5-point favorite to win game 2, which is fascinating because they were a 9.5-point favorite to win game 1. So, part of the reason I imagine Vegas is saying that is 2 things. A, they led for 47 minutes, 59 seconds, 59 and 7/10 of a second in the game. Either tied or had the lead. Tied when it was 0-0, obviously. Thunder led the whole basketball game, except for the last 0.3 of a second left, which is pretty remarkable and why we love sports so much. It's just because the margin of error is, especially the championship stage generally, is pretty thin. Part of the other reason that the Thunder are double-digit favorites in game 2, despite being down 0-1, is how they respond to losses in this year's playoffs, and they respond convincingly. So they lose that game 1 to the Denver Nuggets, in which they collapse in the final minute. They execute what I think is a smart strategy, is fouling up 3 inside of 20 seconds left. We can do a whole show on that potentially. But then Aaron Gordon hits the walk-off shot. Guess what happens? Thunder come back in game 2 and beat Denver by 43 points at home. They then lose game 3 at Denver, lose in overtime. SGA tried to draw a foul on the last shot in regulation. Lose that game down 2-1. Come back in game 4, SGA with a 30-piece. They beat Denver on the road by 5 points. They lose game 6 of that series in Denver. It's 3-3. It's going back to a game 7. Hey, Nikola Jokic has won game 7s. These are the Denver Nuggets. They've won a championship. And the Oklahoma City Thunder, against a beat-up Nuggets team, but still won game 7 by 32 points. Game 3 against the Minnesota Timberwolves got crushed in game 3. Lost game 3 to Minnesota by 42 points. For the record, no team in NBA history has ever won a championship and had a 40-point loss on the resume, which if history holds up, good news for the Pacers, obviously. They come back in game 4 rather, despite the OKC bench the Minnesota bench going berserk. They preserve the win in game 2 against the Timberwolves. And then, by the way, in game 5, they win by 30 points. At one point, the Timberwolves had 9 points in the first quarter. Moral of the story is the Thunder, A, don't lose back-to-back games in the playoffs, and B, they not only win, they crush you when they lose in the postseason, generally speaking. So that's sort of the weird aspect of this, though, is that Indiana, their last 2 series, won game 1. They kind of controlled the game throughout, beat Cleveland in game 1 of the second round, and then obviously the miracle finish to beat the Knicks in game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals. And then they come back on the road and win game 2. Haliburton hit the buzzer beater in game 2 against the Cavs, and then they just outplayed the Knicks late in that game to steal game 2 at Madison Square Garden and have resounding home court advantage moving forward. Is that Indiana, the downside for Oklahoma City is, boy, they've got confidence. They made this comeback. They got nothing to lose. All the pressure's on Oklahoma City. I'm not saying they can't come back from 0-2 because I do believe in their firepower and their defense, coaching, SG, all of it. They really need to win game 2 of the series. If they're down 0-2, it goes back to Indiana. I have to imagine at that point the Pacers do become a pretty overwhelming favorite to win the series. And so with all that being said, I have to imagine Mark Dagnall, head coach of the Thunder, is in a position where he's like, you know what? He may very well actually stick with his starting lineup, which was controversial. I defend it because it worked early on. But Chet Holmgren, Isaiah Hartenstein, the twin towers essentially of that OKC defense, which was the best in the league by a mile, did not play a single minute together in that game. Chet struggled offensively. I have to imagine that will definitely change in game 2. So listen, I think I could see it being close for court. Again, I feel like I'm disrespecting Indiana with every word that I'm saying. But I respected them in the sense that this series is going to go way longer than people think it's going to be, and these games are going to be closer. I think this is the one blowout in this series that we see. Give me Oklahoma City minus 10.5. I actually love the spread here. 125-103 again. Once this thing goes back to Indiana, we're going to get two, I think, down-to-the-wire games in games 3 and 4. And probably back in OKC for game 5 as well. But Thunder win. They have to win game 2. And I think at this point, my buddy Arthur Hurst said last night on our post-game reaction show on the Grid Network, he said, Oklahoma City's of the mindset, they know Indiana's reputation and their history these playoffs. They need to absolutely crush Indiana to feel good about where they're at. Like, this needs to be, I said, this needs to be Thunder up 20 with 2.5 minutes left. At that point, I'm like, okay, game's probably over. Pacers probably are coming back from this one. That's kind of where I'm at on this. So, again, if you're a Thunder fan, you should feel optimistic if you're a Pacers fan. You should feel optimistic if you're a Thunder fan, though. Okay? You have to imagine SGA is going to give you more than 3 assists. You would hope as the series progresses. Dagnall will make the adjustments. Again, Carlisle's the veteran. He's a champion with the Dallas Mavericks, obviously, back in 2011. This series has a 2011 feel, but you have to imagine a guy like like Mark Dagnall. He's been a coach of the year. He'll make adjustments. He has all playoffs, and the Thunder undefeated after losses in the postseason and winning convincingly. I mean, they got some 40-point wins, some 30-point wins. So this is what they do. All right, that is all the time here for today's show. Appreciate everybody stopping by. As always, be sure to catch Carving Up Live on Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time, right here on YouTube, Instagram, and on Twitter. But be sure before that to catch the Grid Network NBA Finals Game 2 post-game reaction show. Myself, Arthur Hurst, potentially more guests will be joining us. That'll be at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Grid Network's YouTube channel, Twitter account, and probably on our Instagram as well. Again, 10:30 Eastern on Sunday night, either right as Game 2 has already ended or as it is ending. Who knows? We may get a crazy finish down to the wire. I don't think that'll be the case. OKC's got to win and win in blowout fashion to give themselves some good confidence going back to Indiana for games 3 and 4. But very excited for that. Shout out Arthur Hurst. I thought he did a great job last night. Tune in 10:30 Eastern on Sunday night. So we'll see you then. See you back on this show, Carving Up, on Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern. And so game 2 will play out. I think the Thunder win. I think the Thunder cover. So that's what I got. We're going to have a 1-1 series once we get back here on Monday night. Have a great weekend, everybody. Stay safe out there. God bless y'all. Peace out. You're under pressure, Mike Tomlin. Come on now. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.